Welcome to the World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli in Misano. 16 turns, 4.226 kilometers, or more to the point, 2.626 miles if you're still with Imperial. We've got a packed grid of cars, a very, very short run to the first corner. This is first of two races of the final round of the 2025 North American Super Trofeo Series from a Lamborghini, and we have one champion already, Nick Grote, in the Lamborghini Cup class. He's not attending, but each of the other title races in the Pro, the Pro-Am and the Am series still very much to be sorted out. I'm joined in the commentary box by former Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer Jack Bartholomew. We just had an Asian series race, that's warmed us up, and now what can we expect from this one?
Well, I think, as always, the racing from the US is always incredible. There's all the championships still left to be decided other than Lamborghini Cup, so hopefully that means things are going to be a little bit more spicy. Obviously, people hunting for every last point in the hope to become the champion of their class.
Exactly so, and looking across the course of the season, started in Sebring. Just savoured these circuits, 3 minutes to go, so I'll talk through them. Sebring, Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, Road America, mouth-watering circuits. Then the big one, Indianapolis, and then Misano. It doesn't seem a natural fit, but always the final rounds of each of the series from Asia, North America and Europe are held at one circuit, and then that'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The drivers from all three series join up to compete in the World Finals. Here we are on the Adriatic coast, 2/3 the way up the Italian coastline on the right-hand side, the eastern flank, and it's a wonderful place to be. Air temperature's been staying very steady at 14 degrees, but track temperatures are rising. But let's go down to the grid. Elias de la Tour with Dakota.
Elias, yeah, we're just getting reshuffled here on the grid. First and second, obviously first and second in the championship as well. Championship points on the line here today, and you're starting alongside your biggest competitor, Danny Formal. He was really confident yesterday going into today's race, but how are you feeling today?
We're feeling pretty good. A little bit of a rocky qualifying, but I think we have a great team that we put things together last night to where we have a really good race car. And I have a great teammate alongside of me, a lot of experience, and hopefully he can use that to his advantage in turn one, get to first place.
So for the American folks watching back home, a very, very early race for you guys, because this race is going to be in the mid-50s, so it's the coldest race you've had the whole year. How are you guys managing with those tires?
Yeah, it's just a whole new strategy we have to develop. Thankfully, he's had experience in the cold before, and he's just sharing that knowledge with me, and the team's doing a great job of helping me and just work on our strategies of how we do things. And it's a little bit different with the cold, but we'll be okay.
No, Elias, not only for your car, but for yourself. This is a big weekend for you. Congratulations, by the way, as well, for being selected as one of the few American drivers in the Lamborghini Young Drivers Program to be selected for the shootout on Monday. So race focus, world final focus, shootout focus, where's your head at?
Yeah, thank you. It's on a straight line, just a linear line of learning and trying to put all the data together to make it all work on Monday.
I'm seeing the 1 minute board show, so we better get off the grid. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Elias de la Tour with Dakota, his teammate there. With the you can see he's in New Zealand. It says Wanganui on his visor strip. That's Will Bamber, and he'll be starting very much the sharp end, second on the grid. 4 classes, as you can see. There's the colour code. Little flash on the top corner of the windscreen. Pro is orange, yellow for Pro-Am, Am and Lamborghini Cup, green and blue respectively. But just to touch on the championship battle, driver on pole position, Danny Formal, 121 points. Doesn't matter how many points you have, it's the margin. 17 points clear of Elias de la Tour's car that starts second. So really, to have your front runners on the front row is just what you want. There are 15 points for a win, down to 1 point for 10th. Looking to tomorrow's race, the final race is a point for pole, and then 15 for a win. So potentially, with a 17-point margin, as long as they finish even one position behind the de la Tour Bamber car, the title will be theirs. But nothing in motor racing is simple. And here at the Misano circuit, one of the biggest problems, it's a very short run from that start line in the middle of your screen to the first corner. In the opening race, we saw the driver third on the grid, Alex Denning, go, you know what, to get past the pole sitter, I'm going to get on the grass. He did, and he was in front. But again, it's very short, and then turn 1 here, Jack Bartholomew, is really tight. Here's 1, 2 and 3 as the cars go in. Yeah,
the whole first sector up to sort of turn 6 is difficult to pass. You can kind of defend into turn 4 quite easily. You know, kind of corner leading to another corner, very technical. So obviously getting a good jump off the line is crucial. And then really you just want to try and stay out of trouble. It's much easier to lose the race than win the race, although that is against what happened in the Asian race. We saw the race was won at the first corner, but in reality you want to just get through cleanly and then settle into a rhythm and see what you can do.
Well, a wonderful drone shot. Here's the front row. Danny Formal, car 101. Will Bamber alongside. That's Wayne Taylor Racing from TR3 Racing. They're the top two crews. Quarter of a second, the gap between them. Good lap from Danny Formal. Nico Jamin in and out of the championship this year, but he's starting third with Colin Queen, who's had teammates from the Answer Motorsport crew filling out that second row of the grid. Third row, Nick Persing. He'll be running solo all weekend. Jason Hart will share with Conrad Geiss. He starts from the outside of row number 3. Another car from TR3 Racing. Row number 4, moving back to Keon Tandon, 47 Motorsports, and Ernie Francis, who shares with Luke Barkley. They'll start in 8th place on the grid. Then in behind we go to Glenn McGee, who'll be the top qualifier from the AM class, Wayne Taylor Racing, alongside Andy Lee from Flying Lizard Motorsport. Then Tadas Karlinskas, driver from Lithuania, an all-Lithuanian lineup. I've not really said that much in my history of commentary. From Brandon Godovic, who'll be running solo for PPM. David Staab and Matteo Seidemann will form up on row number 7. Field's still working around. They get 2 formation laps here. Don't worry, they're not running around the final corner yet. Dean Noyles, Canadian racer, and Lindsay Brewer, who races for the Rafa Racing team with Jem Hepworth. They will start 15th and 16th. Then Sebastian Carazzo, also for PPM in the AM class, and Rocky Bolduc. And then behind them, Paul Nemshoff, he shares Flying Lizards with Mark Miller, and Garrett Adams, one of the drivers who's opted to do all the hard work, go solo. Ray Shahi doing the same job, he's solo, so is John Hirschberg. And that takes us to the tail of the grid, 22 cars in all. Let's hope we can get them all around the corner. Right, the race is 50 minutes. You'll notice the clock on the top left of your screen is already counting down. The second formation lap counts. Now, Danny Formal, he's such a strong runner in the championship over the years. He was the North American champion in, get this, 2022, 2023, not last year. He blotted his copybook, only second, but leading the championship. And with the extra point he gained for pole position, his margin over Will Bamber and Elias de la Tour is 17 points. That's chunky, but he's got to control the race from the front to keep it simple, or at the very least, if he gets passed by Will Bamber in that yellow and black quartered car behind him, he's got to stick to its tail. 50 minutes of racing, 1 pit stop, possible point of fumbles. Jack, we saw a couple of drivers getting pinged for having a pit stop that was too short. That hurts like mad.
Yeah, especially when it's a couple of tenths of a second. You know, it's such an easy thing to do. You don't want to give time away. At the same time, you're better off losing half a second to a second in the pits than getting a penalty, because then it really can be game over.
The other thing we just have to mention at this point, as everyone in the pit lane is just focusing on everything they can and crossing their fingers, if you're racing solo, your pit stop is 3 seconds longer, mandatory. And from pit in to pit out, that means theirs will be a minute and 48 seconds, or 108 seconds versus 105 seconds for the people in 2 driver lineups. Vast majority of the field, 2 driver lineups, certainly those at the front end of the pack. It tends to be drivers in the AM or Lamborghini Cup class who go solo. But at the front end, it's Danny Formal from Will Bamber, Nico Jamin, Colin Queen, and Nick Persing. They are the top 5 runners on the grid. Jason Hart tucked in behind in 6th place overall.
You can guarantee Danny Formal will be aggressive at the start. He's a super aggressive driver, always on the money, fast in everything he drives, whether it's a kart, car, you know, he generally wins in most things he competes in. So you can be sure he is going to be ready for those lights and, you know, trying to take the lead at turn 1 and really, you know, control the race.
As we heard from Dakota when talking down on the grid to last to the talk, drivers not accustomed to temperatures, track temperatures as cool as these. The track temperature is still, well, it's gone up to 22 degrees. It was 19 degrees for the first race of the day at the start, but they're still much, much cooler than the summer season races. Right, 16 turns on this circuit. out of the final one of those, sorry, into the final one of those. The grid hatchings go the whole way around the corner. Imagine that. Lining up 32nd on the grid. You can't see the start, but here we are, 2 by 2 they go. 11 rows in all, waiting for the red lights. They're still on the gantry. Now they go green. Danny Formal absolutely does what you suggest. He's thumped that throttle through the floor on the run down to the first corner. Doesn't have to worry about an attack. And Will Bamber in the yellow and black car has dropped down 129 to 4th place overall. Car 108, Nick Persing up from 5th. He made the best start of all, 5th to 2nd. I'll take that every day of the week.
Incredible. Danny Formal played a really smart game there. He actually held back leading up to the line. So Will Bamber actually had to then back off or even brake. And then as he did that, Danny Formal nailed the throttle, got the jump, you know, textbook kind of stuff. Someone of his level of experience really showing that.
Unfortunately, we have a spinner. I'm just double checking. I think it's Ray Shai, 165. Yes, it is. So did it take 2 to tango? Well, certainly Danny Formal hasn't got anybody to tangle with because he's got that all-important lead. In behind, you can see the white and red cars in 3rd and 5th positions. They're from Answer Motorsport. And I think Nico Jamin, car 130, started 3rd. Yeah, he has held on to 3rd place, but it's just the driver in front that's swapped. It's Nick Persing, 108, that's moved into that position. So Wayne Taylor Racing, 1st and 2nd in this race. So their black car with the blue stripes, that's Danny Formal in the lead of the race. Black car with the red stripes, up from 5th, going well, Nick Persing. And Nico Jamin, by the way, 3rd place overall, leading car in Pro-Am. And he's sharing for Answer Motorsports with Canadian racer Antoine Como, who's had a really, really good season. Apart from that little spin coming out of turn 3, I think everybody has behaved on this opening lap. You can see them going wide over the curbing as they get towards the end of the lap.
Certainly be some track limit warnings for some of those.
Yeah, they're running wide at turn 15. Turn 16 will be next. Here they go into turn 1 now. Turn 2. But again, the margin, half a second cleared. Nick Persing there, 108, just on the left-hand side of your shot. 2nd, 3rd place is Nico Jamin, tucked in behind him. Anyone wants to stay anywhere vaguely near the track, they're pushing super hard. Their tyres will be cold, and certainly that would have been a factor. Every driver here at Misano has been talking about just the problem of getting the heat into their rubber. However, it seems none of them took any proviso, any notice of that, but I'll keep an eye. You almost have to keep your eye on the screen of punishment as well as the timing screen, so we'll keep an eye out. And also, there will have been some drivers running a little bit wide through the first corner. Sometimes they cut out turn 2, they go from turn 1 to turn 3, and those tend to get 5-second penalties. Not wishing a penalty on anyone, but I'm just saying it's the nature of the beast. They may come their way. Will Bamber in 4th place, the yellow and black car. Here we have fantastic view coming onto that back straight out of turn 10. There's a kink at 11, another at 12, but just comfortably clear, not pulling away, but just more than half a second clear is where Danny Formal is going. Certainly, I suppose, if anybody's going to be in behind you, you want someone who's a teammate. That's nice. You also want someone who's not really challenging in the championship, because Nick Persing is back in 3rd, but he's not challenged the overall leader. He's 17 points down. No, he's not. I beg your pardon. He's 27 points down. Nick Persing, 94 points in 2nd place in this race. Will Bamber, 104 points, but he is 2 places further back, and championship leader is in front. So with all of that, the championship leader should be stretching his margin over 2nd place in the championship.
All you'd say to that is, if they're in the same position towards the end of the race, do they reverse it to try and help Nick Persing, you know,
well, they
try
might
and close the points? Because if Danny Formal essentially has the job done today, it's something you could really look into as a team.
Well, I tell you what, let's go and ask his teammate, because Dakota has caught Hampus Eriksson.
Hampus, a flying start from Danny. I heard you guys screaming in the pit lane. It was really good. He's already gained 5 seconds on Nick, who's behind him. Now, Nick is part of the same team as well, Wayne Taylor Racing, and he's 3rd in the championship. So is there going to be a battle between you guys, him, or has he been told team orders?
Yeah, as you said, Nick is still in the fight for the championship with us, the 101 car. First of all, we'll do everything for the team and hopefully win the race. Then we'll see what we'll do with the 101 car, our car, me and Danny, and Nick's car, the 108. We'll talk a lot about it. Of course, it's for the championship and for the team championships, etc. So we'll see how it plays out. It's still a lot of laps to go, so we'll see what happens.
After racing in Europe last year, do you think that gives you a bit of an advantage over Nick?
I don't think so. Nick is a great driver, a great friend off the track as well. I think him and Danny and the whole team here in Wayne Taylor Racing really helping each other every race on and off the track. So it's a privilege to race for this team. And as we can see in the championship, we're doing very, very well. So we just have to keep doing what we're doing, and we'll see how this weekend goes.
Thank you very much, Hampus. That's Hampus Eriksson in the 101 car, and he's 17 points to lead the championship and also ahead of the race.
Thanks, Dakota. Just wanted to pick up on one thing. You actually gave them a much bigger lead than they have. It was just 0.5 of a second, not 5 seconds between Danny Formal and Nick Persing. It's out to 0.76 of a second between them because Danny Formal has just put the fastest lap of the race. Settled down. Now, it's a 50-minute race. It's about keeping your tyres good. The early stage of the race, and particularly in cooler conditions, your main concern is staying on the track. But as the tyres heat up, it's then about not using them too much. But for all the drivers, particularly those from outside the European Championship, they're so accustomed to having their tyres on much, much hotter race surfaces than this that takes a great deal more out of them. But this must be actually a bit of a pleasure for them once they've got their tyres up to a working temperature. But I'd say Danny Formal is got things under control at the front of the race. Not a second clear. Right, cars number 147 and 163 under investigation. There's Matthias Seidemann in 163 and 147. Brandon Godovic, who's last. So one presumes that Brandon was maybe spun around or put off the track, because certainly with a driver of his merit would be further up the order for sure. He started just outside the top 10 and is stone last, so didn't see him go around, but maybe a later replay may find it. But that one's being looked at, and the driver possibly being accused is a driver of 167. Sorry, 163, Matteo Seidemann. So apologies to Jason Hart in 167. You were not involved. Right, here's the train of cars. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, including, there it is, 167. It wasn't him. I just want to point that out. But at this point, the driver who qualified second, Will Bamber, fell to 4th at the start and has just not been able to make up ground. Fast enough to qualify second, but this is such a tight, twisty circuit. At one point, here's the run down to turn 8. You might think there'd be a driver diving up the inside. We saw it, I think, only once or twice in the Asian race that started the day. But it's very much, these cars are very, very quick. If you had, let's say, Renault Clios or something of a low performance, well, they overtake at every corner, but turn 8, there would be carnage. They'd be diving down the inside, around the outside. But here, with cars of such grunt, it's so much harder.
Yeah, certainly. Because you have a car like this, that there is aerodynamics involved. Sort of the mid to high speed corners, it's very hard to follow too closely. You do get a bit of the dirty air, so that affects the airflow over your car, so then you can get a bit of understeer in the front, so it makes it hard to follow closely. You end up in a situation like this where you've got 5 or 6 cars all together. It's very hard to actually make a difference. You're essentially just following, hoping for a mistake.
So let's have a look at what happened at the start. Just looking at a driver who doesn't appear to blink. This is Danny Formal. Focus, focus, focus. Then fine, looks across at the pits. But at the start, let's take a look. Driver on the right-hand side of the screen absolutely nails the start. That's our pole man, Danny Formal. We think he might have just backed everyone up because then he was ready and he blasted off. Driver on the outside of the front row almost got hit at the back. That's Will Bamber. The driver tucked in behind him really got caught out, which was Colin Queen. But down before they got to the first corner, already Danny Formal didn't have to worry about anyone else. And the black car with the red flashes, that's his teammate. That's Nick Persing from 5th. Not up to 4th or 3rd. 2nd is where he got up to, and he held on there. There's a bit of a challenge around the outside from Nico Jamin. He got shoveled a little bit wide, but the good thing is they stayed between the white lines at the first corner of the circuit, which is a far from a given here at Misano. Not across the years, across the decades, things went wrong. There is the car facing backwards. That's Brandon Godovic. That's where that happened. So all but one got through the first 2 corners okay. Driver right at the back of the field deciding, well, I'll take the shorter run across the curbing. That's John Hirschberg, possibly just to keep out of any trouble when cars start spinning in front of you. But now, as we rejoin the race at the front, Danny Formal, another fastest lap, but Nick Persing has broken the gap behind him. He's dropped Nico Jamin. Nico is in the Pro-Am class, but he's the pro in that, so he'll want to stay up there. But finally, the 2 Wayne Taylor racing cars have both got a little bit of breathing space behind them, and quite clearly nobody is being pinged for track limits at that point on the circuit, going around turn 12 to 13.
There it looks like there is a few warnings coming through for
yes,
track
you're
limits.
quite right. They're starting to come through. You're allowed a multiple of them once you get to a certain point, and then the bad boy flag comes out, and time penalties start coming your way. So Danny Formal 1.3 seconds, 1.1 second clear from Nick Persing. Nick, having just dropped Nico Germain off his tail, is now, here he is, 108, starting to pick up the pace. For quite a while, he had the white and red Answer Motorsport car right under his rear wing, but now Nick Persing is going after the championship leader, the race leader. That's Danny Formal, his own teammate.
Wayne Taylor Racing clearly have their setup dialed. Obviously, you know, a mainstay in the Super Trofeo series, but the last time they would have been here for the World Finals, they would have been on a different manufacturer of tyre. So there's all these sort of factors that you can look back at your data from 5 years ago, but it's not really relevant. There's been an Evo package upgrade on the car, different tyre manufacturer, different compound of rubber. So really, you know, they've had to come here with a, you know, a fresh set of eyes, fresh look at things, and they seem to have got it dialed in pretty well.
They do, and of course, you know, you can look back at your notebook, but if it was 5 degrees warmer, it's like you're racing on an entirely different circuit, and if you have a splash of rain or a heavy rain, it washes all the rubber off, you start all over again. But just to reiterate, this is a 4-day race meeting. This is, well, it's a 5-day, because they were doing practice from dawn till, well, it was properly dusk last night when the last car came off the track. Thursday and Friday, it's the 2 final races of the final round of each of the championships, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series, Asia, North America and Europe, and then they go to 2 days of world finals. This is Misano circuit, Adriatic coast, right-hand flank of Italy. Brilliant drone shot showing actually an enormous paddock. Loads of transporters, but every time I come to this circuit, it gets smarter. The left-hand end of the pit lane, very, very smart new building over the top. It's a few years old now, but when I previously came, you just had the continuation, the rather poor end of the pit lane you can see now in the middle of our screen. But what hasn't changed is the circuit, except it has. You know, back 30 years ago, it raced in the opposite direction.
Really?
Maybe 40 years ago, when Formula 2 used to come here and so on. So, again, it grows, but it can't grow very much further, because right behind the back straight is the Autostrada, the main road. You cannot, there is no room for growth on that side. The only way they could change it any further is to continue straight on at turn 1 and proceed up there. Who is proceeding? Well, the 2 cars from Wayne Taylor Racing. 1.5 seconds clear now, Danny Formal from his teammate Nick Persing, who in turn has got a 1 second gap back to car 130, which is Nico Germain. There is Germain. You can tell he's not in the pro class. He's got the yellow flash on the top left-hand flank of his windscreen as you look at the cars. The first 2 cars got the orange flashes of being in the pro class. Nico Germain, he's in the Pro-Am class. And then tucked in behind, getting no change out of him, is Will Bamber, running in the pro cars. Colin Queen, likewise, and Keon Tandon. Top 5 cars, top 6 cars covered by 5 seconds. But nobody at the moment can do anything about a driver who may be heading towards the championship. Certainly this weekend, maybe even today, sitting on a 17-point margin. If he goes in tomorrow's race with anything more than 16-point margin, 17-point margin and above, he will be champion.
Yeah, and essentially for Will Bamber and Elias de la Tour, obviously running several places below, it's exactly what they didn't want to happen. But it's not over to the end. We've still got 33 minutes of racing, so they just need to stay calm, see if they can play the pit stop correctly, and, you know, maybe move up, save some time. And anything is possible, you know, in racing. You can think it's a done deal, and then something happens, and you know, the result is flipped on its head.
And don't forget, of course, any driver who, or combination of drivers for a team who get their pit stop wrong, the penalties are huge on that. Right, Lamborghini Cup class, Rocky Baldach leading that from Ray Shai, who had a little moment, and John Hirschberg, who we saw running wide at the opening corner, but that was just keeping out of the way. Right, hold on. Oh dear. Brandon Godovic spun at the first corner. He's received a 5-second time penalty for track limit abuse. He's had a 5-second track limit violation following through a moment after that, and then 10-second penalty for track limit abuse. So Brandon Godovic trying his utmost to play catch up, but unfortunately
someone's just gone off.
Someone has just gone off and off beyond.
Is that a brake failure?
Is that Garrett Adams? It's no, I tell you what, it's probably Andy Lee. Let's have a look.
That screams a brake failure, judging by where he went off.
114, it's Andy Lee. The unicorn comes back to the track.
To go that far into the...
well, that's at turn 9. Turn 9 is a little right kink before you get into the tight right of the hairpin of turn 10. Unfortunately for him, that was an acre, or whatever area code you want to mention, of gravel trap for him to go into. He has rejoined, but that will be very frustrating. So just run through the classes, if I may. We mentioned Nico Jamat leading his class. This is a driver, and when I say his class, it's Pro-Am in third overall. Matteo Seidemann, here he is, car 163. American racer for TR3 Racing. He's leading his class. He's got a margin of nearly 6 seconds over Glenn McGee. And Glenn sitting pretty in the 7 points clear in the AM Championship before the start of the race, but importantly the driver who's leading him today is a driver who's somewhat further down the order, so it will in turn Glenn McGee be extending his championship margin. And gained a point yesterday by taking pole position in class. Points, by the way, 1 point for pole position in each of the 4 classes, and then the points are afforded equally across those 4 different classes, whether you're Pro, Pro-Am, AM or Lamborghini Cup. You get 15 points for a race win, 12 for second, 10 for third, 8 for fourth, 6th for fifth, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, down to 1 point for 10th place. Rocky Bolduc leading the Lamborghini Cup class. And in fact, only 3 runners in that class, and he's joined this weekend by Ray Shahi and Jonathan Hirschberg. So though he sits second in the championship, it won't mean that Rocky Bolduc can head to title glory, because one driver's already got that in the bag. He's not here this weekend, Nick Grote, who's had such a success in Lamborghini Super Trofeo in North America. Now we're just hearing, you're absolutely right, the car we saw deep in the gravel, Andy Lee, and he's off again. Brake failure.
That's got to be some sort of ABS. I mean, he's obviously stopping and not going into the wall, but it looked like there was a set of, as you say, a set of 11s, as if he's locked up on the way in to turn number 9. On the previous attempt, he's obviously gone off again. It screams of some sort of ABS issue.
Yeah, and in fact, thank you very much, Dakota. She's just saying the team are telling her that the brake is just going straight to the floor.
Yeah.
Not what you want with certain corners around this circuit. So how did it happen? Well, it happened just like that. That wasn't the first one. This was, or was it? Was that turn 9?
No, that's
down
off.
at the end of, well, halfway down the back straight. You've got a couple of kinks and a tyre wall, which fortunately he missed by about half a car width, but you know, clearly that's over and out for him and the team. So really, really very frustrating for Flying Lizard Motorsport with that one. And synchronized spinning, but this time it's Sebastian Carrazzo, driver from Puerto Rico. Going, does he hit the barriers? I think he maybe just about get away, but yes, he has indeed. But there we go. Bit of grass cutting. It worked successfully in the first of the Asian Series race for a driver going from third to first on the run to the first corner. But there for Sebastian Carrazzo, that was more of a heart-in-mouth moment. It didn't work for him. Right, pit window is open. You can see the message on the top of the screen, and the first of the cars coming in. It looks though Will Bamber is coming in. Just double check. Yeah, that's Will Bamber coming in. Danny Formal is staying out. And Bamber, remember, started second, fell down to fourth. Elias de la Tour, we heard from him on the grid. So he's waiting to take over from the Kiwi. He's on board, he's strapped in.
One of those, in this situation, you really got to play the strategy.
Well, exactly. Now, this is the car that was second on the running order. That's Nick Persing. He's not getting out, and that means he's driving solo, and that means his car has to be stationary for 3 seconds longer. Drinks bottle out of the window. Right, really good start from him, 5th to 2nd. But those other cars running nose to tail behind him, with the extra 3 seconds, how many of those will take a jump on him? Quite naturally by having a shorter pit stop, we'll see. But maybe by coming in early, he feels he thinks he's got enough of a gap. He certainly was pushing, and we did see him drop Nico Jamat and just gradually stretch. He didn't manage to catch the race leader, his teammate Danny Formal, but he got a little bit of a gap, and that will be absolutely crucial for him.
It looks to me like they've potentially come in, the Will Bamber car has come in to sort of almost, sorry, the Nick Persing car has come in to sort of cover the Will Bamber car, because they're clearly racing in the championship for second, come in at a similar time to kind of cover each other. Danny Formal's got track position, so of course you're going to stay out while you've got clear track. See how it unfolds in the second stint, and then like we talked about earlier, whether there's going to be a position reverse depending on how Nick Persing filters back into the race.
it's always a tricky thing if you're asked to be the support player, but I don't think they have asked him to do that yet. But absolutely the right thing to do was to cover off the Will Bamber move, because that's the one that's ahead of him in the championship. Quite right. Right, I'm just going to refresh people's memories on points. Before the start of the race, there was a 17-point gap between this driver, Danny Formal, sharing with Hampus Eriksson across the season, ahead of the Will Bamber Elias de la Tour car. And if the Will Bamber Elias de la Tour can get up into second place, they will only lose 3 points, but that will be a margin that will be enough, quite simply, for Formal to get the title in the bag today, because it will go out to 20 points, the gap between them, and that's just too much. So for Elias de la Tour and Will Bamber, they have to win today to stay in the title hunt. Danny Formal,
yeah,
controlling the race, controlling the championship.
They need to win, and they need Danny Formal to have an off day, which, well, clearly he's not.
No, Hampus Eriksson sounded cool, calm and collected when we heard from him talking to Dakota. Now again, drivers being held, and it seems like an eternity. And that'll be Luke Barkley taking over from Ernie Francis. Yeah, car number 128. Now, oh, dearie me. 10-second penalty for car number 147. I mentioned a lot of those coming the way. Brandon Godovic, he's just, well, I tell you what, he almost fills every third gap on the penalty screen. So for a Precision Performance Motorsport,
luckily for someone like Brandon, he's got loads of experience, so he'll be able to just put today behind him and go again tomorrow. But yeah, certainly not his day.
No, certainly not. But racing Lamborghinis for a huge number of years, so maybe he's just doing the Gilles Villeneuve tactic of pushing as hard into corners as you can, spinning and finding you need to go slightly slower. I don't think so. A mild quip of early days of the great Canadian racer. But right, this is the moment where drivers get in and all the little nervous ticks come out, those extra tugs on the belts and all the other things. I'm sure you had some strange little procedures you did in your day, Jack.
Yeah, you certainly, as a driver, you build up your own sort of routine at driver changes, how you like to have things done. You know, what belt do you want tightened first? Do you like to get the belts done, the steering? You know, everyone has their own sort of procedure. You know, it's important you follow that so you get yourself in the right frame of mind before you then drop the clutch and send it.
And that was Hampus Eriksson taking over. You can see the Swedish colours on his helmet, yellow and blue, taking over from Danny Formal. Almost seems like a test day. Pit lane, they've come in when a lot of people have already blinked and made their pit stop, and out untroubled. They had that margin before the pit stops, and I would suggest when it all shakes out, they will still be there, unless they undercut on their time, which will then come to a penalty that would be a real clatter to their hopes. But with the championship in their hands, Hampus Eriksson, if he can go on to win this race this morning, it will be victory for them in the championship. The 2025 North, he's taking absolutely no risk there. Came almost to a standstill at the very tight, twisty exit of this pit lane. Looking across, because you join just after turn 3. Don't want someone else coming and clattering into your door when you get up to turn 4, which is a tight right-hander, about 110, 115 degrees. Gets through that, gets through turn 5. 6. And then you go through a corner that almost isn't a corner. There, did you see it? That was turn 7. Now they go down towards turn 8. Actually, that's turn 7 there. But when you're driving, it doesn't even come across, enter your mind as a corner. It's just after the shadow of the bridge across the circuit. The next corner you find is turn 8, nice and easy, round that hairpin. At this point, what are the track conditions for Hampus Eriksson? He's getting the feel of the tyres. Yeah, that's nice. Danny Formal didn't have to push too hard. He had that lead. He's given me some rubber underneath me. That's good. So now he can concentrate. He's got 24 minutes remaining. And then, providing nothing happens to him, that will be the championship victory for 2025 in the pro class.
Yeah, certainly he's been given all the opportunity he needs. He now just needs to drive a sensible stint. Again, like the Asian race this morning, no mistakes. You've got to still drive at 80–90%, because if you back off too much, that's when mistakes can happen. But at the same time, no silly track limits, no spinning out, just solid laps at about 80% of what you can do. Right, let's give you their season story. Danny Formal, who started the race, Hampus Eriksson, who's just taken over. Sebring, 2 wins from 2. Ooh, retirement. A Laguna Seca, but second place. But then the third meeting, 25th at Watkins Glen and 10th. But since then, 2 wins at Road America, 2 wins at Indianapolis. Here we are at Misano, heading for another. 6 wins in the bag, and surely this will be the 7th, and it will be the title for them. How the rest shake out remains to be seen, because this is largely half the battle. We had that 4-car run, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, and having just taken Nico Jamin being spun around. He was leading the Pro-Am class, and he will not want to, he's sharing with Antoine Como. So nearly
being collected there. Oh, dearie me. And I think that was his in-lap, or planned to be his in-lap. They haven't had the pit stop for him. He was about to hand over, and he's just also got a track limit violation as well. So let's see what... Well, he just got muscled to the outside. And 108, well, that's a car that was featuring very much at the front of the field. That's Nick Persing up the outside. I'm not entirely sure if there was contact, but round it went. And this suddenly will put Jason Hart and Conrad Geis into sort of... into the sort of best seats in the house in the prime class.
It looked a little bit like Nico Germain came in a little bit hot and actually went to the left to give space to the 177 to avoid contact, but by doing that he opened the door, and that allowed the 108 of Nick Persing to kind of throw it up the inside, and then there might have been a bit of rubbing at the apex, bit of a racing incident. It's kind of hard, you know. Nico Germain did the right thing to not hit the car in front, but by doing so left himself open for someone to throw it up the inside.
It's all a question of the degree of caution you have when you're sitting in a good position, but very frustrating. Now, what we are seeing is the fact that Elias de la Tour is ahead of Nick Persing, and with Al Moret in there as well. Al's just dropped into the 177. Entry from 47. He took over from Keon Tandon. He's suddenly in the mix. And look too for Enzo Garacci, who's just taken over the 104 entry from Answer Motorsport from Colin Queen, the second of those two Answer Motorsport cars, white with the red livery. And he too is on a charge. But importantly for Hampus Eriksson, he's 4 and a bit seconds clear of that battle. 2 cars still listed ahead of him on the timing screens. They haven't served their pit stops though. But once they do, 101. Hampus Eriksson took over from Danny Formal, will be in the lead of the race, and we think by about 4 seconds, so that is super comfortable, and that certainly means for the remaining 20 minutes of this race, the Swede can just relax a little bit and run at, let's say, 93.5%.
Yeah, exactly. Even if he was to be caught by De La Tour, it's not going to be the end of the world. Even if he was to be passed, it's not the end of the world. Essentially, is that if they finish today within a couple of points of each other, they've got the job done. So they need to just play the smart game and think about the championship.
Yeah, it's there's Nico Germain out of the car. He'll be very, very frustrated with what happened up at turn 4. Round it went, and again, just sort of sometimes that element of a little bit of caution. But yeah, the door slam was slightly harder than it would have been otherwise. You don't need to tell us what you're thinking, Nico. We can see it loud and clear. Right, 101 started on pole position. Brilliant start from Danny Formal. Popped the others behind him, or kept them behind him with a very intelligent start. Didn't have to get aggressive in the first corner. He was already a car length clear. And since then, even easier, because his teammate Nick Persing got into second place. But all along, the pace has been there. It was there to be used when it was required. At the moment, Eriksson leading from Elias de la Tour by about 4 seconds. Hold on, another... is it... Another penalty coming the way of Brandon Godovic, car number 147, heading towards a world record, I would suggest. He's had a cluster of 10-second track abuse limit warnings. And here's the car that Slade Stewart won't get to race by the sound of things, because this is the one where the pedal went to the floor, now back into the garage. Really disappointing. Andy Lee found... well, that sound underneath. Can you detect what the problem is from that grating sound? That's not good.
That could be gravel in the wheels. Yeah, it could be the issue with the braking system. But those guys will have that car in pieces, I'm sure, and ready to go again tomorrow.
And then hopefully the day after tomorrow and the day after that, with the World Finals to follow.
108 drive-through penalty.
018 is Nick Persing. Now, I'm wondering if he was getting... what was he being blamed for? It's not saying as yet. It's just come...
Probably for that incident with Nico Germain, I would imagine. Germain,
yeah. Well, he's running 4th overall. Remember, he was 2nd before we came to the pit stops. He had a pit stop that was going to be 3 seconds longer. We knew it would cost him position. If you take 3 seconds off his time, suddenly he'd be 2nd on the track. So absolutely proved. I thought he'd dropped to 4th or 5th, and he's done precisely that. But a drive-through penalty, well, over and out.
Again, that's his hunt for 2nd in the championship pretty much finished. So, you know, what we were saying in the first stint about planning and race tactics and team orders, out the window.
Yeah, and actually before this race, with the bonus point for pole position, car 101, which is Danny Formal, Hampus Eriksson leading right now. There it is. 17 points clear. They had 121 points. It was, now here he is, just updated. They'll be on 136, which will put them 20 ahead of Will Bamber and Elias de la Tour. Only 16 to play for tomorrow. They will be champions. Nick Persing, 103, will stay in 3rd place. However, Conrad and Huffaker didn't even come here. So really, that, what I'm trying to say, Will Bamber and Elias de la Tour will be absolutely safe in 2nd place in the championship. but still more penalties coming through, and yet another for Brandon Godovic for track limits. He must be off at almost every corner, and this is not the style you expect from him, so I don't know what is happening. Tell you what, the driver who went really well in the first part of the race was Glenn McGee, and let's go down and hear from him. He's with Dakota.
Glenn, not only did you have a good stint, but you had a great qualifying. I mean, you were 1 second from pole position. I think that's pretty mega as an AM driver. Now, let's talk about the race. You said you were struggling a little bit. What are you struggling with?
Yeah, the car's been amazing all week, and I think we've been developing the setup really well. This track requires a very strong front end, so we're always kind of moving the setup that way. And I think I expected some different conditions this morning, and I went very aggressive on the front end. Let's just say that. And the car it felt like the front end fired off sooner than the rears, and it was just a very difficult car. It's been the most difficult car for me, just because we overshot it, I think. But
And obviously, championship points on the line here. What's it like to make those kind of gambles that you're not really sure of? And, you know, your whole championship's riding on this.
I know, coming in here, Graham and I have had an amazing season with Wayne Taylor Racing. They've given us a winning car, and it's just been down to us to make it happen. We thought we could put pressure on the guys behind the championship by just managing this race and finishing well, but unfortunately, I think I went too aggressive on the setup, and Graham's going to have to manage a difficult car, so he's really testing his experience right now to keep it underneath him and keep Staub, who were racing behind us.
Yeah, really, I was about to say, David is behind you somewhere, and Graham looks like he's doing a great job. What would your advice be now to Graham?
If a car's oversteered, just brake a little earlier and soften out the brakes, and then be very slow to the throttle.
I see gloves go on, so let's see how you go. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks, Dakota, with Glenn McGee down there, looking actually fairly confident. A little bead of sweat on his brow. That's quite permissible after about 25 minutes racing hard around this circuit that gives you very few moments to relax. Now,
very detailed analysis from Glenn there. It feels like that was more of a post-race debrief than an interview.
I actually really like it, because particularly if you're someone that's watched this championship, or more to the point, even not watched this championship before, it's just understanding any little sort of tiny bit of information. Oh, dearie me, getting very, very loose running out of the corner there, just trying to work out who was running over the curves. So there's a great little battle. We haven't really mentioned Al Morey going, but I'll tell you what, it was 104 just going past. That was Enzo Garacci, and we're just hearing that Nick Persing may have a puncture, but it's also, he's got a drive-through penalty, hasn't he? So the team is getting ready with tyres as Dakota's just got on the phone, not the phone really, obviously over the radio. Wayne Taylor Racing getting ready, but that's also Wayne Taylor Racing. They will cover every possibility. Right, let's take a look at the Pro-Am points, and it's the Lithuanian Pro, Darius Trinka, now on board. Just 3 points clear from Konrad Geiss, who's running very nicely at the moment. He's leading the race in his class, so 3 points. That will make it exciting come the final tomorrow. That's the points if they finish as they are. They're first and second in the Pro-Am in this race, in 5th and 8th position overall. 14 minutes remain in this race, but the gap between them, I'm just wondering if Trinka can close in. Well, he can. He's lapping a second a lap faster than Konrad Geiss. Keep it interesting. Right, there's a spare wheel being kept ready, but for Nick Persing, well, it's dropped him down to 15th place coming into the pits. That drive-through penalty, we talked about this. Get a penalty that involves coming into the pits, you might as well forget it.
In a sprint race like this, yes. If you've got an endurance race, the 24 hours of Spa, you can get a track limits penalty. You can have a drive-through and manage it, make up a handful of seconds each stint. But in a 50-minute race, you just can't afford to be losing a minute.
In fact, in a race like this, 10 seconds would change everything.
Game over.
10 seconds, 5 seconds. Right, let's just run down the order. There are the AM standings. We just heard from Glenn McGee, Graham Doyle on board. They'll be 11 points clear of David Staub if they finish as they are. But as it is, they've got 2 other class runners between them. So they're pretty safe in that, which really sets them absolutely fair and square for Friday, for the final race, the 12th race of Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. 12 and a bit minutes remain, and the lead, Hampus Eriksson, he's been stretching it. Last lap, he gained another 6-7 tenths of a second over Elias de la Tour. Championship almost in touching distance. And just going through the classes to be complete, the graphic on the top left of the screen tells us that Rocky Bolduc, only a 3-car field of the Lamborghini Cup. Normally have more than that when on American soil, but with the championship already in the hands of Nick Grote, he didn't come, but Rocky seizing the moment. again, just trying to keep out of the way of those that come through, and that is Hampus Eriksson. It's the black car for Wayne Taylor Racing with the blue flashes, untroubled, lapping comfortably. But again, there's Rocky Bolduc, driver leading the race in the Lamborghini Cup class. But as you can see, Nick Grote, by not being here, is still 18 points clear going into tomorrow's finale. So the job was done. He did the maths, decided not to take the journey. Maybe he'll do it next year, but we don't know yet where the world finals will be. We can have our guesses, we can have our favourites and where we would like it to be on our wish list. But right now, I think for Hampus Eriksson and Danny Vermael, they want it to be right here, right now, because they have this championship to win, and I think they're going to get it done on a Thursday, an unusual day to win a championship, but with the world finals taking up the weekend here at Misano. That will happen on Saturday and Sunday. So these two final races, races 11 and 12 with the 6-round championship, are here on a Thursday and a Friday. And I think going to lunch today, Danny Vermael and Hampus Eriksson will be very happy indeed. And poor Hampus, remember last year in the world finals, lost out to Igor Orchev in the final by next to nothing. It came down to who set the fastest lap, not across the two races, in the final race. And Igor did it. But here's Hampus Eriksson. He bounced back. He's been racing in the States this year, leading the championship with Danny Vermael. And it really is nearly a formality with 11 minutes to go. That was awful, wasn't it? I apologise.
Silence.
Silence
let you know
everything.
what I think about that. But no, they're certainly doing a good job. They're slowly increasing their lead. They're managing the race. They know they've probably got the job done, so they can now just use the rest of this race, tomorrow's race, to really just dial in that car for the World Finals. I think the top two in this race have definitely got a shot at the overall World Finals, against the European and Asian drivers. So, they're going to be looking for every last little fraction of a second they can find to give themselves the best shot to take the fight to the Europeans.
Now, one person I just want to keep a look at, Al Moray. He's got up into third place overall in this race. Really, really good run for 47 Motorsport, showing with Keon Tandon, but he's on a final warning for track limits. So just the team's got to get that message through. You've got a brilliant position in the field. You're being chased, though. Enzo Garacci, I said watch for him. He's working his way towards the front. He's up into fourth place. He's under a second down off Al Moray. But Al can't afford to take one more movement where he gets all four cars beyond the white lines around the edge of the circuit.
The problem is when you get to that final warning, you then have to drive a little bit defensively, and then unfortunately that's where a mistake can happen, or you lose a bit of time because you're not using all the track. You then potentially become a little bit vulnerable to being passed.
Very much so. Another driver who's got onto the final warning. Oh, no, he hasn't. Sorry, beg your pardon. Jumping the gun. I was about to say poor Graham Doyle. He's only taken over, but he's just done a track warning, but it's only the first. Whereas Brandon Godovic has just had his 11th track warning, but he's already had a handful of time penalties. Well, I'll tell you what, let's pop back down to the pits. We're into the final 10 minutes. Let's hear from Colin Queen with Dakota.
Colin, obviously down in a very, very anxious pit lane, 4/10 from third on track. So you could be a podium finish here. What do you think it's going to take to get that podium finish? Obviously, it's been really hard with track limits and sticking to those track limits. Were you able to manage that? How could you tell Enzo to manage that?
Yeah, I mean, track limits this weekend has always been such a difficult task to manage. Coming from the States, obviously, having a little bit of European enforcement. I believe I got one track limits infringement in my first stint, so Enzo's got to manage it just a little bit more, but I mean he's capable of doing it all day long. Yeah, I mean we're 4/10 to P3, so I think as long as he just keeps up his pace, I know that he's extremely fast both in North America and Europe. He's been fast all weekend, so I think as long as he puts pressure on Al Moray in front, we'll have a chance at getting third.
And that was my next question. Obviously, Enzo is actually racing North America and Europe this weekend. So how have you been sharing him out between the two teams? Because obviously his championship in Europe is really important to him as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great that we've been very close from the get-go this weekend. I mean, we've gone along really well as teammates for the whole year, and to have him doing double duty and kind of relaying that information of, I guess, just having that knowledge of track, of that more and more experience, it helped me a bit, for sure. Especially in some qualifying pace. Race pace has always been there for us, so Yeah, and also have, this amount of track time this weekend has been absolutely phenomenal. We barely get any in the States, as you might know. So yeah, I think it's really good going into the World Finals with this much experience.
Thank you very much, Colin. That was Colin Queen in the 4:01 down here in the pit lane.
Thank you very much, Dakota. Yeah, it's a learning experience, and he's young American, clearly lapping that. One of those drivers just into his 20s, 21 years old, and gaining experience all the time. Other drivers getting the wrong sort of experience because time penalties being added, and there's been a black flag, a disqualification for Brandon Godovic. I think it was 11th or 12th time track limits warning, but time penalties being added for short pit stops. Graham Doyle, we heard from his teammate. There's Brandon Godovic, steaming away. He won't be happy with life down there, but he over and out for this race. Sorry, Graham Doyle has just got under a second down on the pit stop for the time penalty, so that's going to be very annoying. Another person also under the pit stop time was Rocky Bolduc, who's leading the Lamborghini Cup class, but he's got a big margin of advantage there. Up front, we haven't really talked too much about the race leader for a while. Hampus Eriksson, 9 seconds clear, nothing Elias de la Tour can do about him. Gap's too big. Al Moray's 3 seconds back. The last few laps, actually, I thought he'd be caught by Enzo Guaracci, but Enzo has actually fallen away a little bit down in 4th place. 2 seconds between them. In the Pro-Am class, 5th place overall, it's Conrad Geiss, and that is really good for their championship hopes. Started the race 7 points down on Darius Trinka and his teammate Tadas Karlinskas, and they are running 2nd in the race, so there'll be a 3-point swing towards the chasing TR3 combination of Geiss and Jason Hart. So you take what you can, and you'd like more, but at the moment the next car in class, Antoine Como, remember we had a problem for his teammate Nico Jamin just before the pit stops got spun around, and he's too far back to challenge Trinka to take 2nd place. So it does mean the gap will come down, but not as much as Conrad Geiss and his teammate Jason Hart would want. Up front though, Hampus Eriksson, there he is, car number 101. Got it under control, can lap in the high 1:35s. 2nd category, lap after lap, and he hasn't got to do too many more. 5 minutes left on the clock. 9 seconds clear of Elias de la Tour. Job done.
Yeah, very measured drive. Danny Formal did the legwork in the first stint, got the hard job done, but that does not mean the second stint is any easier. There's a lot of pressure when you have a gap like this. It's easy to lose it, to make a mistake, but Hampus Eriksson doing a perfect job and just managing the situation, bringing the car home, looking after it, nothing silly, don't break anything, don't get any track limits, don't chuck it off in the gravel, just keep delivering those sensible lap times to bring home the win.
Right, here's the situation. Conrad Geiss, car number 167. He's the paler blue of these two metallic blue cars. He can afford, well, he's not giving a place away. He can afford to let Luke Barkley pass. That is, he's shed 5th position. He's dropped back to 6th, but he's still leading his class. He just didn't want, because Barkley was way quicker for Alliance Racing. He saw him closing in by some tidy margin each lap, and the better thing was let him go. It seems counterintuitive when you're racing, but when it's multi-class racing, you've got to think about your points. And he's done just that. The next car in the background of the shot, sorry, no, that's not the one I thought it was, I beg your pardon. I was going to say it was the
only time I'd go against doing that is if, for example, the 167 was fighting for an overall podium and there was 2 minutes to go or a lap to go, you try and hang on, but it's for 4th place, or I think it's 4th or 5th place. So there's not the chance of him getting the overall podium and the class win. So let the 128 go, let Barkley go up the road. There's no point fighting it. You're only going to risk Luke Barkley having a lunge and then contact, so it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and in longer races you maybe take more of a risk when you run a little bit offline, because there's going to be so much tyre debris and all the stuff you don't want to be driving over. But right now, sensible move, looking through the windscreen of Hampus Eriksson. 6 wins in the bag already in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Looking as though it's going to be number 7, and it will be lucky number 7 for them, because this will give them the 2025 outright title, the pro title, the outright title for him and for Danny Formal. So this will be a special place in his heart, one feels, for Hampus Eriksson. So Jack, talk us around the remainder of this lap riding on board with Hampus.
Yeah, so through this last sector, it's just lots of right-handers gradually tightening up as you come off the back straight into this one that's the tightest, using all the track, getting back over to the right nicely in time for turn 15. Little bit of curb, use all the exit track you're allowed, stay nice and wide, get it in nice and early on the power, again using all the track on the exit. Misano is all about just getting good exits and using all the track you can get away with, obviously without getting track limit penalties, but you've got to be cheeky, you've got to play the game and really try and maximise what you have at your disposal.
You do. Thanks very much, Jack Bartholomew, voice of an expert rather than me, which is nice. But here is our race leader, Hampus Eriksson. Danny Vermael will be watching casually in the pit lane because you can't feel with a 11-second margin he has to be too concerned about anything. For Wayne Taylor Racing and the crew, looks like it's going to be yet another title for them. Anything with sports car shape, they seem to have won a championship in it and continue to do so across multiple championships. But Hampus Eriksson, nice, easily under control. He'll have to do this lap and one further lap. His margin, 11 seconds to good over Elias Tour, who's now starting to have to look in his mirrors. Al Murray is closing in. He's 1.7 seconds down. Had a much better previous lap. In fact, it was Elias Tour must have been traffic. He suddenly dropped about a second. Yes, that's why the margins have really changed. But again, he had enough of a cushion over Al Murray to be, I think, comfortable and prepared to not risk anything. Just not get yourself put off a track when going past a back marker. But Hampus Eriksson at the moment is not only on clear track with a big lead, he really isn't a huge. He's suddenly, you know, in racing, doesn't matter how many cars you have in the field, you suddenly get a gaggle of cars. Here's the chasing second place car of Elias Tour. He will look so he's still running at full speed. Yeah, maybe the previous lap was simply down to other cars. Well, that's very, very wide. Going through turn 15, turn 16. This is a corner they often watch for drivers exceeding track limits, and they're both nicely just by the skin of the left-hand flank of their left-hand tyres within the white lines that demarcate the edge of the circuit. This is the final lap of the race. 1.2. Al Murray's getting closer and closer. He lost another half second on that lap, so Murray may be really fancying a top finish for the 47 Motorsport crew. He's left it late. Well, Motorsport, he's closed and he's closed.
Yeah,
they've had a second. They'd had a second place already this season, but to get on the podium here when you're sort of shaping up for the World Finals would be very handy indeed.
Yeah, certainly fill them with loads of confidence going into tomorrow and then the World Finals.
You'd have to say so, and it's really been ever since that controlled start. You reckon it was a very clever start from Danny Vermael by backing them off. No one could overtake out of the final corner until they got the start-finish line. Lost momentum for Will Bamber in particular. Bang, nailed it, and already had half a car length advantage and built on that. Clear for the first corner of the race, and it's been neat and tidy ever since. And Hampus Eriksson can just click his way through the remainder of this race. It's under control, almost in the bag. Turn 14, turn 15. And here it is, turn 16, facing the checkered flag, being greeted by it. Victory to Eriksson and Vermael. And then there'll be a bit of a gap. It was 11, nearly 12 seconds margin. Might have come down a bit because Hampus Eriksson possibly backed off, but here comes the battle for second place, and it does go to Elias Tour, but Al Murray got very close indeed to 0.9 of a second, so that was a real charge from him at the end of the race. But for Danny Vermael there, yep, thank you very much. Victory in the race and victory in the championship for 2025. And Enzo Garacci finished in fourth place, 4 seconds down on Al Murray. Remember, he was challenging him at one point, so certainly a good run for Al Murray. And he got very close to Elias Tour, waiting. Luke Barkley comes through to take 5th place overall. And 6th place now, Conrad Geis, giving him victory in the Pro-Am class as well. So half the field still to finish, but the checkered flag has fallen to victory, going to Danny Vermael and his Wayne Taylor Racing teammate Hampus Eriksson, who brought it home 12.7 seconds. So it wasn't just a victory, it was wiping everyone else's face in it, because that was the margin of domination they've had. It's been a fantastic season for them, and now they can say you can put our names onto the trophy.
Yeah, that was absolutely dominating performance from both of them. And it sounds like their season hasn't been all plain sailing. A couple of DNFs and I think you mentioned one of the weekends, a 10th and a 25th. So yeah, they've certainly had their challenges, clearly. I mean, I haven't followed the whole season 100% closely, so I don't know exactly what's happened there. but clearly some issues at various points in the year, a DNF as well, but then they've bounced back from that, had loads of wins, and you know they've done the business and still won a round early.
It's an amazing thing to do so. To win in a round early, even in a championship of 24 races, is normally quite something, but it's a championship of 12 races across the 6 rounds, and by the end of race 11, this one, the championship is in the bag for Wayne Taylor Racing's Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal. Their teammate Nick Persing, of course, was running second early on, but he had that penalty and it dropped him way down the order, a lap down at the end. So he'll be cursing, and a few other drivers had certainly exceeded track limits, and some undercut their pit stop time, and that's why they have tumbled down the order. And most notably, actually, the Graham Doyle Glenn McGee car was final warning at the end for track limit abuse, and they'd also picked up a minimum an undercut pit stop time as well. But there is Elias de la Tour coming through, and actually was very unlikely to take the overall title this year, but they were in here challenging second place today. Well, it's stretched their margin over Nick Persing, who, as we saw, finished way down the order, but there's no more you can do than second place, because the title is already won by this driver, Hampus Eriksson, and his teammate Danny Formal. So congratulations to them.
You know, you quite often have it with you know, football in the UK. You get to the last game of the season and teams talk about losing by 2 or 3 points, but it's not that last game. It could have been throwing away a point at the start of the season. So it's the same here. You come in 17 points down, you know, you're the underdog, you've still got an outsider's chance, but realistically, Eriksson and Formal have done a better job this season overall and have just come in, you know, with a big enough lead to just manage the day.
They haven't, with those sort of late penalties. I've just noticed second place in the AM class has moved Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth much closer into the battle. So that one's actually shaping up. Graham Doyle and Glenn McGee came here with a 7-point lead, or started the race with a 7-point lead, but they've tumbled back a little bit there. But here, Hampus Eriksson still with his helmet, and Danny Formal without. Number 1 they have, not just in the race, in the championship for 2025. So job very well done. But it's not just this race, you're quite right. It's about across the season. They did have that disastrous meeting where they picked up 1 point, and their rivals all gathered them by the armful. But the rest, they've been the one scoring maximum points. They've been the one that has top point off the pit lane.
Congratulations, guys. Not only a win in the race, but a win in the Pro North American Championship. You're looking at the 2025 champions here. Danny, how are you feeling?
Fantastic. It was so good to see. Hampus has been growing every single race this season. We started very strong in Sebring, had ups and downs of the season. The last 6 races, we've been on fire, 5 race wins so far, and yeah, we got 1 more tomorrow. Best stint of his young career with Wayne Taylor Racing, this last one. Got about a 7-second lead and just kept going faster and faster. We've been working on one sector and he figured it out in the race, and it was awesome to see. Not a single track limit, as everyone knows. It's a very track limit track. So very proud of him. Champions, my 3rd championship with the team, 3 championships in 4 years for us, and 100 wins for Wayne Taylor Racing. Fantastic for us to be able to bring that to the team.
Wow, what a historic moment. Obviously 100 wins for Wayne Taylor. Let that sink in. That's an amazing number to get to. Hampus, as Danny said, it's a very track limit track, right? So whatever that means. I gave Danny a really nice length of distance in the beginning. I said that after 4 minutes during the race that you had a 5-second lead, but it was only a 0.5-second lead. But Hampus, amazing job keeping and maintaining that really strong lead. Are you feeling happy about winning?
Oh yeah, it's everything. But it wouldn't be possible without the team, Wayne Taylor Racing. My first season with them, and it's been so good. Every race weekend, on and off the track, the team has really been on it every time. And I need to thank my brother here, Danny. He's guided me in America, my first season in America, and oh, it's been incredible the whole year. And to finish it with a championship as well in my first season, I can't describe it. Just huge thanks to the team. Yeah, lost of words.
Congratulations, guys, and to Wayne Taylor Racing, everyone supporting them at home. I'm sure it's absolutely paid off. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can sense the satisfaction there, and they really did not put a wheel wrong. Qualify, pole, tick. Lead into the first corner, tick. That's it. Everything else under control. And again, they mentioned the team Wayne Taylor Racing, and that's an incredible figure, 100 wins. So look, Joy further down the pit lane as well. So excuse the language you may have caught there. Over enthusiasm, but there you go. It's not over till it's over. And that was Al Morey, and he had right to be excited. And again, just apologise for the language there. But third place today. Let's go down and join the crew that finished second in the race today. Elias Latour and Will Bamber.
Guys, second place, congratulations. Obviously not exactly where you wanted to be today. They've closed the championship now, so now it's on for a vice champion. A really great drive from you, Elias, today. I think you were really, really strong, adapted to the track very well. What do you feel?
Yeah, thank you. It was a little bit tricky out there, especially with the pressure initially after the pit stop, but he had a great in lap, I had a great out lap, and we were able to jump a couple cars in the pits, and that's ultimately what it came down to, because then we were in front. It's easier to defend here than attack, and the team did a great job putting the car together. It was so much improved over yesterday, and I think we just drove ultimate our best race. I think that was our best race this season, even though P2, but I think the team did a great job.
Well, obviously you've been coaching Elias all year long, so his success is obviously your success as well. What happened at the start there, though? I mean, it was good to crawl it, like get it back, but what happened at the start?
Yes, I'm meant to be the experienced one. No, honestly, it was a bit of a mix between US rules and over here. We don't run any lighting systems, so everything was still red, so I was confused about when we were meant to go. So they got the jump here and square. Some pretty good battles there on cold tyres. It was very tricky. Our car really came alive, so it was just really tough in a train of cars. So Elias did an awesome job bringing it home. P2, we'll just improve from here. One better tomorrow.
Exactly. Keep the focus for tomorrow, but congratulations for today. Thanks very much, guys. This is TR3 car 129.
Thank you very much, Dakota. In fact, Jack, just thinking about the comment there about did well on cold tyres. Remember in the first couple of laps, we saw so many of the front runners running really, really wide indeed. And then it wasn't an issue anymore because they got the heat in the tyres and they could stay on the track. Not everyone managed that, of course.
Yeah, certainly in conditions like this, in a championship where you don't have the tyre ovens, it can take sort of, 2, 3, 4 laps to get that sort of temperature you need in the tyres.
Yeah, they all have to just understand the situation. It changes by the day, 2 or 3 degrees different, and it really does make a difference. So the podium ceremony almost upon us. 4 classes of racing, the Pro Class, the Pro-Am, the Am, and the Lamborghini Cup. This is first of the 2 races of the final round of the North American Super Trofeo. We know the destination of the championship in the outright class, the Pro Class, because Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal with victory today have taken it. And let's take a look back at the classification after race 1. Danny Formal, Hampus Eriksson, victory today by 12 seconds. The championship is theirs. Elias Latour, Will Bamber chased down at the end by Al Morey, who took over from Keon Tandon. They're second and third. Enzo Garacci, Colin Queen, fourth for them. Luke Barkley, good charge from him, got up to 5th, sharing with Ernie Francis. Conrad Geis, Jason Hart, winning the Pro-Am class in 6th place overall, ahead of Tadas Karlinskas and Darius Trinker. Matteo Seidemann in 8th, taking victory in the Am class, and victory in the Lamborghini Cup class go down to 17th place. Rocky Bolduc for the Rafa Racing Team, car number 199. Started with 22 cars and got 20 of them through to the finish. But it really was a day that belonged to the 101 crew from Wayne Taylor Racing. Outright victory for Danny Formal and Hampus Eriksson, and the title to go with 1 race to spare. So after 11 races, they are champions, and that's their 7th win in 11th races. So a dramatically strong season for them, emphatically so.
Thank you. This water? Can I get that as well? Thank you.
Taking all the freebies, water, a little towel and everything. No detail left unchecked here with the Super Trofeo, but you can sense satisfaction for Hampus Eriksson in particular. For Danny Formal, that's his 3rd North American Super Trofeo Championship title in 4 years, so an astonishing record. And in his off year, he was 2nd.
Yeah, terrible to finish 2nd. Yeah, clearly one of the mainstays of US Super Trofeo and always winning.
So just waiting for the 3rd place crew to come out onto the podium. And it should be 47 Motorsports, Al Morey, and the driver who started, Keon Tandon.
Invitiamo sul terzo gradino del podio per la scuderia Ford Racing con la Huracan numero 186, Jonathan
Lindsay Brewer, Jem Hepworth looking happy with life. We'll come to them in a minute, but it's the crew coming out.
Il team Ford Racing con la vettura numero 165, Ray Shea. Ray Shea is getting on the 2nd step of the podium.
See, we're starting with John Hirschberg. Sorry, just caught me out there. That's the Lamborghini Cup class coming out first. Ray Sheehy in second place. And Rocky Boldich, who will take victory in the Lamborghini Cup class.
Cominciamo la cerimonia ricordando che avremo poi il rappresentante di questo team sul podio. È pronto il dottor Maurizio Leschiutta che è responsabile.
So Rafa Racing Teams, Rocky Boldich, Canadian racer, up on the top step there.
Ad ascoltare tutti insieme l'inno nazionale statunitense.
That's his second class win.
Applauso al podio, è pronto ovviamente il dottor Leschiutta, trofei di bronzo che andiamo a consegnare alla
So as the strains of the Star Spangled Banner fade away, it's time for the trophies for the Lamborghini Cup class of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. First, their two races, their final round here at Misano on the Adriatic coast of Italy. So Rocky Boldich on the top step. He's certainly pretty happy with life. Second Lamborghini Cup win this year for him. First of those came at Watkins Glen. And trophies high, soon we'll have the photo. And then we'll do it all again, and of course a trophy to the winning team as well. That's Rafa Racing Team getting the trophy from Hankook.
Guys, so can you plan the first step on the podium, staying all together closer? Look in front of you with the trophies in your hands. And then please...
These are the clearest control I've ever had from someone who's master of ceremonies. Control the photographers for them.
With your trophies in your hands, yes, we have all the people on the pit lane. And now champagne!
And champagne for the Lamborghini Cup Cruise. I'm fairly sure Rocky Boldich will let it rip from the top step. Second of his wins, as I pointed out, and that he's second in the championship. Can't win the Lamborghini Cup title because Nick Grote already has that in the bag. And Nick not here, but Rocky is making the most of it, and he wins the prize for the boldest opening of the bottle. So fun abounds, and a slippery couple of steps will be there for the next three sets of crews when they come up. But Rocky Boldich got the job done there.
8 AM, so 8 AM. First of all,
and the next class will be the AM, but here is 199, the super slow-mo of Rocky Boldich, under control, the Canadian racer. And that, Nick Grote, as I said, not attending here, but Rocky is now absolutely secure in second place in the championship. In fact, he was anyway, because Ray Sheehy, who finished behind him, you know, too far back. But all he can do, he can chip away. And I tell you what, if he takes the 16 points for pole position and victory tomorrow, that will get him within 2 points of Nick Grote. But Nick's done his maths. But today it belonged to Rocky in second.
La scuderia è il team Rafa Racing, la Lamborghini la 102 con Lindsay Brewer e Gemina Eatworth. Two ladies on the second step of the podium in Misano. E ora il momento del vincitore per la scuderia.
So already up onto the podium in third place. In the AM class was David Starb, Jem Hepworth and Lindsay Brewer at second place, and onto the top step goes Matthias Seidemann, and he's had a really good run. He took the 2 class victories last time out and makes it 3 in a row.
Congratulations to the drivers, and we are ready. Siamo pronti con il dottor Maurizio Leschiutta.
So for Matthias Seidemann, it's really coming on very, very strong for him. 3 wins in class in the last 3 races. And that he wasn't in the championship reckoning. Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth, though, with second place, they've moved themselves closer into the mix because David Starb finished behind them. He's second in the championship. But Graham Doyle and Glenn McGee, it was looking really good for them, but penalties dropped them down to 5th place in class. So that's closed the whole thing up, and we as fans from the sidelines be very happy with that, actually.
Certainly. Makes it a bit more exciting going into tomorrow.
Give the trophies to, yeah, you can reach him. TR3 Racing.
Yeah, TR3 Racing taking the victory there. Matteo Seidemann, not a long CV for his racing career, but certainly finding some sweet spots at the moment.
Looking in front of you, first of all. And then you can look downstairs for the pictures. And after the pics, champagne!
They need to pick up their pace, but yeah, the bubbly comes. There we go. First to make it go, David Starr. Second in the championship, but it's closing right up. But it was the 163 entry from Matteo Seidemann, Lamborghini Westlake backing on that one, and victory in class today. Close to within, look how close it is. Top 3 crews covered by just 5 points going to the finale. Graham Doyle and Gen McGee had a setback today. David Starb closed in, but Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth were the ones that gained the most. Matthias Seidemann, victory today, victory last time out and the time before. He won't be able to close the gap, but he is very, very much one to watch for the future.
It's all to play for in the top 3 tomorrow.
It really is. It's going to be down possibly to the smallest of slip-ups, or even just a run to the first corner, but we will see. And now moving on to the Pro-Am podium. Nico Germain coming out for car number 130, had a little bit of a setback. Antoine Como did his best to close back in. They came 3rd in class today, 9th place overall. Darius Trinka out, 111 crew, that's ML2 Motorsport, Tadas Karlinskas and his fellow Lithuanian Darius Trinka. Second place today, not actually overwhelmed with excitement, but they are the championship leaders. But the gap has closed because the crew that were chasing them, this crew, Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart, take victory today. We'll do the maths in a moment, but the Pro-Am battle is closing.
Il dottor Maurizio Leschiutte è pronto con i trofei di bronzo per andare ad incensare.
So TR3 Racing have a fantastic day. Matthias Seidemann took victory in the AM class, and Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart, their teammates, have taken victory in Pro-Am. There they are on the top step of the podium. But the Lithuanian crew on the left-hand side, the taller and shorter versions, they are in the lead of class, but it is closing in just a little bit. Hankook Motorsport handing over a trophy as well to TR3 Racing, to a team representative. And that leaves the photo, the champagne, and then we'll have the podium for a crew that have taken the outright championship when we get to the pro class. And that's Danny Famal and Hampus Eriksson. But right now, Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart, they're the ones on the top step. They're the ones closing in class. This is Pro-Am.
And after that, get ready, champagne!
So being filmed from below, filmed from above, no doubt there's a drone in the sky as well. But the race 1 of the North American Super Trofeo, over and out. Race 2 is tomorrow, and who knows what that will hold, but certainly can anyone do anything about the outright pace of this year's outright champions? That's Danny Famal and Hampus Eriksson. And let's take a look. Here is the winning car from 167 of TR3 Racing, Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart. Jason started, Conrad finished, and that has closed them to within 5 points of Tadas Karlinskas and Darius Trinka, 103 to 98. And Mark Miller and Paul Nemtsov really wasn't their day today. They were further down the order. So it's a 2-horse race coming into the final round, and Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart will take some momentum, but the difference between first and second on points in a race is just 3. There's a 5-point gap. That could be something that comes into play when we get to tomorrow's finale, Friday, here at Misano.
E ancora una volta la scuderia TR3, grande protagonista in questo challenge, con Elias della Torre, Will Bamber. Un applauso al
So the drivers being called out for the pro podium. 177 crew of Al Moray and Kian Tandon. They're on the right-hand side of the screen. Second place, taller figure of Will Bamber and Elias Tator. But Danny Vermael and Hampus Eriksson, winners of the race, 7th win of this year, and the title goes with it with 1 race to spare. Masterclass from start to finish.
Grande applauso al podio e il dottor Maurizio Leschiutta, head of motorsport.
So plenty of applause and another chance for what they've done to sink in, particularly for Hampus Eriksson. That's his first Super Trofeo championship, and he's joined a driver who's made it 3 out of the last 4 years in the North American Super Trofeo, Danny Vermael. What a pairing they've made, and what a team too. Wayne Taylor Racing, the figure that we heard from Danny Vermael, 100th win. I'm going to have to go and work away across how many championships or whatever, but that is an astonishing number to reach.
Yeah, certainly is. It's a very big milestone.
And will it be 101 tomorrow? We will find out. But today, it was all about the pairing, wasn't it?
101, and it's car 101. Good omen for tomorrow.
It's the attention to detail that really comes shining out. This will be a photo that'll be very sweet for them, not just their car on the track, but them on the top step of the podium. It won't be something that's strange to Danny Vermael and Hampus Eriksson, but it'll be the one where the championship was put into the bag for 2025. And of course, they'll be focusing on what happens on Saturday and Sunday. In fact, Danny Vermael has already gone away to do his homework because he doesn't want his suit to get sodden. Elias de la Tour, second in the race and last to get the champagne open, but an eyeful for Will Bamber there. And here is the winning car. Hampus Eriksson on board. The race was won. The title was won. Waving on his way back in. Victory for the 101 crew today here at Misano. And the title with it. There it is. Confirmation. They are 20 points cleared. There is only a maximum of 16 points to claim. So even if they score nothing tomorrow, the title for 2025 is theirs. A brave chase from Will Bamber and Elias de la Tour. Nick Persick, unfortunately for him, he could have been a challenger, but in the end, having run second early on, a penalty cost him, and he tumbled down the order to finish eventually in 16th place overall. But it really was all about Hampus Eriksson and Danny Vermael. They had a job to do, and they jolly well went and did it.
It's always nice to tie up a championship with a win. You know, you don't want to end the season on a low note.
Well, it was action from start to finish. Let's go back and take a look at the highlights of the penultimate race of the 2012 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. It was a fantastic start from Danny Vermael on pole position. He got 2 car lengths clear, and his main challengers dropped back. That's Will Bamber, 129, the yellow and black car, going from 2nd to 4th. With those that gained, including his own teammate Nick Persick and Carly Spun. That was Bradley Gavovich, and his race went from bad to worse, eventually being pinged for just too many track mimic offences. Getting around the first lap is always one of the hardest things to do. Car 165 was a spinner. That was Ray Shai. He's running the Lamborghini Cup class. And then a lack of brakes led to not 1 but 2 massive off-track moments for Andy Lee. There were further spins, and this was one of the avoidances of the day. There are the barriers, there's the grass, but he missed both of them. 146, then came the pit stops. This is race leader Danny Vermael in, Danny Vermael out, Hampus Eriksson in. Go off now and see if you can win the title. And that's exactly what the Swede did. In behind them, it got a little bit busy, and this was the moment it went wrong for the Pro-Am class leader, Nico Germain. I think this was his in-lap. But further problems that would drop his down the order. Antoine Como would get into the car, come up to 3rd overall. Could have been a class victory. It wasn't for Andy Lee and Slade Stewart. They didn't get to finish the race with those brake problems. And then the chase was on. Nick Persick on the outside in 108. Getting close, getting squeezed. He would have a penalty later in the race, and that would cost him big, big time. Quite muscular performances in there. But no one could do anything about Hampus Eriksson. 50 minutes of racing, their 7th checkered flag of the season. 2nd place to Elias de la Tour. running second in the championship. But for Danny Vermeil, the points advantage was so much. With one race still to run, he and Hampus Eriksson are champions for 2025. And to do it with a win is the best way to do it. Will Bamber, Elias de la Tour, gracious in second place. Almarai, delighted and rather loud in third. But today belonged to the drivers on the top step, the drivers who've dominated all season. 7 wins and the title for Hampus Eriksson and Danny Vermeil. Misano will be one of their happy hunting grounds. And that's it for the North American Series today. One more race for them tomorrow, then the World Finals on Saturday and Sunday. Do make sure you join us.